All right, let's jump right in. As a maritime historian, there are some puzzles that just grab you, and this is one of them. It's a story that isn't about clashing armies or great battles. Nope, this story was carried on the monsoon winds in the holds of trading ships filled with spice.
Take a look at this number, 230 million. That's how many Muslims live in Indonesia today. It's the largest Muslim-majority nation on the entire planet, and that doesn't even count the millions more in Malaysia, Brunei, and the southern Philippines. That is a staggering number of people.
So, that begs a huge question, right? How did a religion born in the deserts of Arabia become the main faith in this massive, sprawling network of islands? Well, I can tell you this much, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's because this whole story completely flips the script on how we think major religions usually spread. There were no great invading armies. No Muslim military force ever conquered Southeast Asia. Not a single one.
So if you want the real story, you're not going to find it in the annals of war. You'll find it in the details, in the shipping manifest listing cloves and nutmeg, in the personal journals of merchants, and in the rhythm of the winds that push their ships across the Indian Ocean.
So, let's get into our first big point. To understand this, you have to understand the network that made it all possible. It all started with ships, not swords.
And listen, this was not an overnight thing, far from it. We have Chinese records mentioning Arab-Muslim settlements way back in 674 CE. By the 700s, you had established trading posts popping up in places like Sumatra. This was a slow, steady process that took centuries, finally leading to the very first Islamic kingdom there in 1267. This whole thing was built on patience and peace.
Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. How did these traders actually spread their faith? Well, it was a kind of dawah, or invitation, that came through their actions. They built this incredible reputation for honest dealings, all based on Islamic business ethics. People trusted them. Locals admired their personal discipline and their piety. And here's the kicker. They made strategic marriages into local elite families, literally weaving themselves into the fabric of the society from the inside out.
But that's only part of the story. It wasn't just that they were there. It was about the specific kind of Islam they brought with them. Which brings us to our second key point. This was the work of mystics, not militants. Just look at the difference here. On one side, you have militant conversion. It's forced, and it often just erases whatever culture was there before. But the Sufi path, the one that came to Southeast Asia, was the total opposite. It was all about inner, mystical experience, and it didn't just tolerate local cultures, it actively adapted to them, blending with them. I mean, the legendary Wali Sangha, the 9 saints of Java, are the perfect example of this. They didn't show up and ban everything. They used the local traditions. They took the beautiful traditional gamelan orchestras and used them to share Islamic teachings. They took the beloved wayang shadow puppet theater and adapted it to tell stories from the Quran. They didn't replace things, they integrated.
And this quote right here, it just nails their whole strategy. They weren't there to tear down what people knew and loved. Their genius was in taking those existing cultural forms and, well, Islamizing them, making this new faith feel both revolutionary and deeply familiar at the very same time.
Okay, so we've got traders building trust and mystics adapting the faith. But how does that jump from small communities and port towns to entire kingdoms? This is the crucial leap, from the ports to the palaces.
You can think of it like a domino effect. Once a single major port city, a hub of wealth and influence, converted to Islam, it created this massive incentive for everybody else. All of a sudden, it just made good political and economic sense for neighboring ports and even inland kingdoms to join this thriving new network.
And what were those advantages? Well, for a local ruler, converting meant plugging your kingdom directly into this huge, incredibly lucrative international Muslim trade network. Plus, Islamic law, Sharia, offered a really sophisticated system for running a government and regulating trade. And, the timing was just perfect. The old Hindu-Buddhist Majapahit Empire was fading, which created a power vacuum that these new, dynamic Islamic sultanates were perfectly positioned to fill.
And you can literally see that momentum building on this timeline. After Samudra Pasai, the real game changer was the Malacca Sultanate in the 1400s. It controlled one of the most important trade choke points in the entire world. Then, as the Majapahit faded, you see the Demak Sultanate rise on Java. It was a gradual but absolutely decisive shift in power.
So when you put all of this together, the trade, the mysticism, the politics, what you end up with isn't some carbon copy of Middle Eastern Islam. No, it's something totally new. It's a unique cultural synthesis that is distinctly Southeast Asian. And the proof is everywhere you look. Check out the early mosques in Java. They have these multi-tiered roofs that look a lot more like Hindu temples than the domes you might expect. Traditional feasts, called Samanatan, were kept, just with Islamic prayers added in. And maybe most amazing of all, the Minangkabau people of Sumatra are both devoutly Muslim and the world's largest matrilineal society. This isn't erasure. It's a beautiful, complex blend.
And that brings us right back where we started, to this absolutely astonishing fact. 230 million Muslims. And it happened with 0 armies and 0 conquests.
So, at the end of the day, when you boil it all down, the incredible story of how Islam rose in Southeast Asia, it isn't about the sword. It's about the power of trade, the pull of mysticism, and a real genius for cultural adaptation.
And so, I'll leave you with this to chew on. What is this remarkable piece of history, this story of peaceful, organic change on a massive scale? What does it change about our basic assumptions of how history works and how powerful ideas can actually spread around the world?